Hey friends, Robin here with Pocono Speaks. Coming to you from Stroudsburg, from the Pocono Podcast Studio. I've got my friend Mark here, and he's got some interesting things to share with us today. Hey Mark, how you doing?
Good, Robin. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So, let's start at the beginning, shall we?
The beginning, yes.
What's the beginning for you?
The beginning, 1989.
Well, maybe that's a little far back. Let's come forward a little bit.
I actually was kind of curious. When was the first time you and I met? Because that was the beginning of this, I guess, right?
Let's see. That was Streetcar Named Desire, wasn't it?
No, I wasn't.
No,
I
it was
wasn't
before
part of that.
Streetcar.
It was because I only did one production, which we'll
Which
probably
one?
talk about. Was the one that I had to leave ultimately.
Well, no, before that. Weren't
No,
you there for
Oh,
ESU?
it was it was the Laramie Project.
Yeah, the Laramie
Yeah, the
Project.
Laramie Project, which
That was fun.
That was a fun show. Yeah, it was fun. I'm sure some of it was kind of drawn out for the audience. You know?
Yeah.
There was no backdrop. It was a huge stage on the ESU stage, and there were no props. It was mainly just speaking and people.
It relied on the actors being able to portray each of these really dry characters.
Yeah.
But they did a good job.
It was a fun show, but it was funny because, well, not funny, but interesting because I know after that show, there was like a depression period for me. I mean, it was weird because I went to the show and then all of a sudden it just like, after the show was done, and then I talked to Susan.
Oh, Susan O'Hearn.
Susan O'Hearn.
Yeah, she was
and
the
I
head
spoke
of the
with
theater department
her
at the time.
Yeah, I spoke with her, and she said, well, usually there is depression after a show, and I was like, so weird. And I'm in school at the time, and it was just very bizarre. But I'm sure we'll talk more about that, right?
Probably.
Huge part of my life, yeah. So the beginning, so I am a magician, and I guess the beginning story I like to tell about that is I was about maybe 11 or 12 years. I think I was about 11 years old.
So it was like last year.
Yeah. I wish. I don't know if I'd want to go back again. Would you?
Oh God. Oh no, not a chance.
Who'd want to go back, right? No. I was about 11 years old, and my friends, my parents' friends were getting married, and they were an older couple, and they had a wedding reception at their house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was bored to tears. I had my Styx album that I was listening to on a CD player. Remember those?
I do remember
the portables,
those.
Yeah. With the
I remember before those, but we're not going to get into that.
So I had the Styx album out, and I'm listening, and all of a sudden the groom comes up to me, and he goes, "Check this out," and I'm like, "What?" And little did I know he was a magician, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he goes like this. Can the camera see? He goes like I'm not gonna do anything, but he goes like this. And the way I tell the story when I write it, either on a website or something, is I say he poured water out of his hands from nowhere. He had empty hands, went like this, and then all of a sudden water appeared. But really, he threw it in my face. He threw the water in my face, and I'm like, whoa. But I guess from that point on, I was encaptured. I mean, I just fell in love with the art of magic at that point. And so what happened after that was they started watching me because I was 11. So my parents would go somewhere, and he would have to watch me, and he would just start teaching me card tricks. He'd show me a bunch of stuff, start teaching them to me. And I was fully involved. I was present. I loved it. And then I would start performing in school. I think I was in 5th grade. I was in 4th grade, I think. I did the ball and vase, right? The little ball and vase.
Yeah, the one where you take the ball out, you throw it away, and then the ball is still in the vase.
Yeah. So there were some sleights with that, so I was learning sleight of hand. And so I would do that, and I would just amaze people. And I said, wow, like, look at the reaction I can get. And then in 7th grade, a few years later, I was doing it in the hallways, and I really just floored people. And I said, this is kind of interesting. You know, there's a magician named Max Maven. I'm going to mess this quote up, but I'll just try to get the gist of what he says. He kind of says that children get into magic because of some psychological, not issue, but because they want to be known, or they might not be good at sports, so they go to magic, or they do
magic is
something
showier than sports anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely could be. Yeah, it definitely could be. But yeah, so I just kind of realized at an early age that to do magic is a gift, and at first it was always look how cool I am, but
Hmm.
very recently I've been delving harder into the philosophy of magic, or more deeper into the philosophy of magic, and trying to work on stage presence, and I'm not so interested in the methods anymore. Because when you're
Okay.
younger, it's like I want to learn a trick, I want to learn a trick, I want to learn a trick.
Right.
But now it's um, how do I give an applause cue? Or what's my applause cue going to be? Or the music for the set?
So
Or
there's a lot more to doing magic than just doing magic, in other words.
absolutely,
And
it's
that's the harder part, and it comes later.
right. Yeah, it does come later. Because like I said, again, the first thing you do is you're involved in the tricks and the methods, and you're working on sleights and stuff. And I still work on sleights, but yeah, it's more stage presence. It's more how do I build a show, you know.
Hmm.
And there's something that Jeff McBride and who I'll talk about and Larry Haas, they have something called the 7 stages of show flow, and I'm not going to get into it, but what it is basically is it's like this arc for a show, and they talk about David Copperfield's show in Las Vegas and Chris Angel's show, and how first it's the introduction, then you share something about yourself, then you get the audience on your side, then you could take them anywhere, and so there's actually a formula. It's almost like a science. There's actually a
Hmm.
formula, excuse me, to creating a successful show, and I'm totally in. I'm just totally fascinated by it.
Well, yeah, there has to be a formula to everything, right?
Of course.
Because anytime you're doing anything, you're showing it to someone else, and you have to get them to understand what's going on.
Right.
So if you just do a trick, it's just a trick.
Right.
But once you get into actually doing the show, now you're telling a story, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So you've got to, give them that introduction, just like any book, like any TV show, like any movie you see out here, which is interesting because now TV shows aren't TV shows anymore, are they?
No,
They're
no.
like streaming Netflix things.
Yeah, yeah. It's strange, but with that said, with TV shows and everything, I think the world of magic is in good shape. I remember, so Jeff McBride. Let me just introduce what I'm talking about here. Jeff McBride is a master magician. He lives out in Las Vegas, and I've been studying with him for over 15 years now.
That's
And
a long time.
yeah, he travels the world, and then he always comes back to Vegas every month. He has a show called The Wonderground out there, and it's every third Thursday, and then people come to it, and I actually perform there, which is pretty cool. Last time I was out there, and so I forget why I was gonna go into something there.
Yeah, you said this is the introduction.
Why did I say that? That's okay.
I have
But
no
so that's who
idea.
Jeff McBride is.
Okay.
And I'll probably be mentioning him a lot, but
Well, I mean, you spent 15 years with the guy.
yeah, and I still continue to study with him, and he's been a super, because there's been years where I fell out of magic. There's times where I don't do magic at all. I just say, because he has something called, he had a lecture that he toured called Being a Magician 24/7.
Okay.
That's like one premise where I almost disagree with him, because I don't think you have to exude that. I think do it when you want to do it, but I understand if you're going to be a professional magician and you're going to be out all the time, to
Mhm.
be ready to perform and
And
always
they
have
deal with that a
something.
little bit in the movie The Prestige, right?
Right.
There's that guy from China that comes in and he does this whole thing where he's old and hunched over,
Right.
and then they're experimenting with that fishbowl thing.
Yeah,
or
and they
something.
couldn't
There's a-
do it.
And they couldn't do it because they weren't physically fit enough.
Right.
And there's this old guy who's not physically fit,
Yeah.
obviously, but they're watching him, go into his car, and he keeps the old guy act.
Right.
And
he's
that's that 24/7 thing, right?
Yeah.
You always have to be in character.
right, and I think the quote was he must be as strong as an ox.
Right.
And his whole shtick was, yeah, he's an old man and he's crippled and he can barely move, yet he's producing the fishbowl from his thighs and he has this incredible strength. Yeah, so Jeff's thing was Magician 24/7, and but I have a conversation all the time with my friend Mervant, who's a magician out in Philly, and he's like, I don't want to do it all the time. I just don't. But there have been years, literally, and just recently there was months that I took off. So I had just recently got back into studying very deeply about the art of magic, so.
And that's where those philosophies start to come in.
Yeah, there's a lot about it. There's so much to cover. There's essays and books talk about not to. I bite my nails and I'm trying to stop, but they talk about how you shouldn't bite your nails.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much that goes into it. Make sure you always don't smoke cigarettes before you go on to,
Which is another issue.
Another issue, because if you go up to a table after you just smoked a cigarette in a restaurant, they're gonna be like, "Whoa, get away from me," kind of thing.
Right.
And you don't want that because you want to be accepted in all, all realms.
Right.
But so in June, it was actually July. I got back from Las Vegas for the third time. I studied with Jeff McBride. He has something called a master class, and it was about 12 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to his very mysterious house. He's got a house. It's incredible, out in Vegas. And he's got a stage set up, and he's got a library. It's like the biggest library for magic. And
well, that's got to be fantastic.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. He lets you go through all the books, and right before the class started every day for an hour, you had library time. So you come in at 9, class starts at 10. For 9 to 10, you would read through the books, and you would. The book I kept going back to was actually a mime book. Yeah, it was a mime book.
How does mime and magic come together?
Well,
that one you're gonna have to delve into.
So with Jeff, he actually does mime on stage. He does all this kind of these dancing moves, and I think he went to mime college, and which I didn't know existed. But he went to mime college, and just study that, but because movement is a huge part of magic, there's another magician, Juan Tamariz, who's a big magician. He talks about, I never read the book, I want to get the book, but it's called The 5 Points of Magic, and where do people look, and how do you direct the attention, and why is it important to, one thing that I learned that's very basic, if you want to get into magic, with misdirection, is people look at the biggest and the fastest thing in the room.
Right.
So if I'm doing this is an obvious
you lift
point.
your hand up.
If I'm going like this,
wiggle your fingers,
and I'm doing dirty work down
hands.
here, jazz hands.
Jazz hands over off camera. They're gonna look over, all the way over there.
Right.
Meanwhile, something's going on like on the table.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that's part of misdirection. So people look at the biggest and fastest thing in the room. So I think. I don't know. It's just something about the psychology of magic that I love. You take people to a different place, and they talk a lot about how there's 2 different types of audience: thinking audiences, and audiences that are there to forget. So you have to have different types of shows for different venues. So you could have the same effect.
Right.
But if you do something deep and intellectual for a drinking audience, it's not going to go over too well.
Yeah, you're going to be completely ineffectual.
Right.
Because they're not there for, a thought process. They're not there to, come in and understand.
Right.
They're there to leave all of that behind them.
Right. Now, if you go to a college audience, maybe more, or let's say a more prestigious kind of college, whatever, they might be in for the ride for the intellectual and philosophical, psychological, whatever route you want to take,
Yeah,
so it's super
that's
interesting.
So you have to have a philosophical show, and then for the drinking crowd, you need that philosophical show.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I'll credit my wife with that one. She is the one that came up with that.
Oh yeah, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So my world lately has been consumed with magic, and I do work a full-time job. And I was talking to my friend, who's a good friend of mine, probably one of my best friends. His name is Jonathan, and he's a poet out in Philly. Mm-hmm. And he actually just got published. Pretty cool. Oh. Yeah, he just got published.
Kudos
it's
to
awesome.
Jonathan.
Yeah, and he's got a book published.
Maybe we'll get him on sometime
He would be a fascinating specimen. Yeah, he's a super smart guy. But I was talking to him, and I was saying that, it's not solely because of having a job, but when you have to do something for 40 hours plus a week, you need that outlet. to do. So I've been doing more magic now than when I was unemployed. At home, anyway. I'm not really.
Okay.
I'm not really. I don't really perform that much anywhere out right now because work consumes my time, and also I haven't been for the past 8 months. I've been out of the game, so
Right.
I'm
So you got to
delving back
rework
into
all
it.
of those
Right.
skills, get them all back and polished.
Because yeah, it's like anything else. You're rusty. They call
Right.
it being rusty, right? So that's what happens. But with John, I was saying, hey, like now that I have this job, I find that on my off hours, I want to do magic, or I want to play guitar, or I want to write. I started writing short. What's it called? Flash fiction. But they're hilarious pieces. Yeah, they're hilarious pieces. Fun. Yeah,
I can't wait to see some.
It's just super short pieces. Can I describe some of them to you?
By all means.
Okay.
By all means.
So let's see. Some of them might be inappropriate. I'm trying to think of one.
Pick an
I won't
appropriate
do that.
one.
I'll pick an appropriate one.
Family audience.
Yeah, I'll pick an appropriate one. They're all kind of messed up though. Let's see. I don't know. Never mind. I can't.
You can't. Have you ever done those exercises getting into that? Like you do a 1-page thing on everything in a guy's fridge. You just take a refrigerator, describe that. I remember doing it in my writing classes in college.
Yeah.
So you take, just a refrigerator, and I had, I worked from the top shelf down specifically because the guy that I was describing was very organized in that fashion, and then you find out in the bottom drawer that everything's molded.
Yeah.
And then you look back up the fridge and you find, okay, oh yeah, that's spoiled too. Oh, the date on the milk is 3 years ago. I hope he's not drinking that.
He's probably dead.
Maybe, but you don't see that. All you see is this is the contents of the fridge, and it's 1 page. It's a flash fiction, but it's a general exercise. Have you ever done one?
No,
of those?
I've never done that.
You're gonna have to try that.
That's amazing.
Now.
Yeah, I don't really do like exercises for writing, but I probably should. This is like a guilty pleasure. I was going on looking at writing prompts like online. A lot of them are kind of strange, but some of them are pretty cool. And I always thought, what if I did a writing prompt? But it seems almost like do a writing prompt, like.
Well, it's like anything else. You got to exercise.
You have to exercise.
If you're in it all the time and you're writing all the time, your writing's going to get better, like your magic.
True. Yeah.
And then, of course, the writing's going to help you with your magic.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I'm back in college now. Today's the first day back. I'm going to University of Phoenix, and so it's an online college, which I heard is pretty tough. Actually, people are saying it's
I can't do it.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Great. And you're way smarter than I am.
Well, I mean, to each their own. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
I need that in-class environment, which is why I've been to so many different colleges.
Yeah, I kind of need that. Too, but I figured I have to do it now because I'm working, and it's a little bit cheaper, I think, than regular school if you were to stay at a dorm and stuff. But I'm going for English, and I want to be a teacher, but my goal is that in 4 years when I get my degree, that I don't need it. Does that make any sense?
You're gonna have to explain that.
Okay. So what is it?
Because I've got degrees and I use them. I need them. I use them every day.
So what's the quote? Like it's better. I feel like it's better to have the degree and not need it than not have the degree and need it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping in 4 years I could be performing. But it's hard. I mean, the area is tough. Did you hear what they're doing in New Jersey now? I think I read this the right way. If it's wrong, I apologize. But they're making it illegal for companies to hire out independent contractors.
Really?
Yeah, I read this. I was like, this is incredible.
Oh, that's gonna ruin Jersey.
It's gonna ruin the livelihoods of so many performers. I have an agent out in New Jersey, and I guess he won't be able to hire me out anymore. They're saying that they have to hire them as an employee in order to hire them out for the gig or whatever they're doing. So they're saying that you can no longer be an independent contractor. I don't know when this goes into effect, but I just read the article. Someone posted it.
So you're going to work for like 100 different companies. You're going to get 200 or 300 W-2s every year?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Oh, that's going to be hard.
If you're working a lot.
That's a lot of paperwork. I guess they really like accountants in Jersey.
Yeah, apparently. No, but so when I read that, I was like, this is so silly. It's strange laws, but
So it's amazing how laws and politics and things can affect something like magic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, every industry is it's amazingly profound how effective it is to every industry, and
Right.
that's important. Why we need to follow these things.
Yeah, well, it's part of the society. It's part of I mean, art back in the day was what for rich people. You know,
Yeah.
they were painting for rich people, and who was the first one? Maybe not the first one, but wasn't Van Gogh kind of the one that was like, no, I'm not doing this for the bourgeoisie. You know, I'm doing this.
Is that what he was known
I think
for?
his thing was more
Yeah.
like working for the people. I don't know much about Van Gogh, but I know a little bit about. I think his thing was more like I'm gonna do this for the people kind of thing.
Yeah,
instead
now
of-
you can't find his stuff outside of a museum.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true. Um, yeah, so, but you have to follow these laws and the structures and everything. I mean, you need insurance to perform. You
Insurance?
You need performers insurance. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't have insurance for that.
No. Are you a magician?
No.
You're a bit of a magician.
No. I've been a bunch of things. I've been the musician and all of that, but my hands just they don't work that way.
Yeah. Well, you could do mental stuff.
I guess.
Yeah.
But then I'll just be mental.
Yeah. Well, I'm super mental. You have to be mental to do mental stuff.
That's interesting. Do you want to talk about that some more? It sounds like we're leading into something.
Do you want to get into it?
I
Because
mean,
you know my story a little bit.
Well, I know a little bit.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean, the whole point is to share your story with the Poconos here.
Yeah. So I do want to share my story. I think it's important, and not that I'm important, but the story is kind of important. So basically, I'll take you back to the beginning of this. When I was about 16, I was in school. I was in high school. I was in 11th grade, and I was dating this girl at the time. Super in love, as you are when you're 16.
Well, yeah, everybody.
Yeah, your first love, and but it was a very. I'm not saying it was anyone's fault, but it was a very controlling relationship on both ends, and it was like, don't talk to this girl, and she would text me, who are you talking to? Anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is I started feeling anxiety, not knowing what it was. I was walking to class the last period of the day, and I started sweating. Like, my armpits were sweating, my head was sweating, and I'm like, what is going on? And I had no idea. My heart was beating fast, and it was a panic attack. And I said, okay, this is kind of unbelievable. So, that summer, 11th into my junior into my senior year, was horrific. I was dreading the school year. I became super depressed. I was in a constant state of panic.
Ooh.
A constant state of panic. It was like my blood pressure must have been just through the roof. And so I actually missed like the first month of my senior year because I went to a place called Kids Peace.
Okay.
Now they used to have an outpatient program. Now they have a hospital in Orfield, I think, near Allentown.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to the outpatient in Stroudsburg, and they got me on some meds, which was great because I think I needed it. It was, and it was super helpful, and I ended up getting back into school. And I thought, okay, I'm done with this this mental health thing. I'm okay now.
Yeah, so you get a medication, you think everything's over.
Yeah, so that wasn't the case, as you can tell by my foreshadowing. So, it became this. There's so much to say about it, but it became this strange monster. When I got to college, it turned from like OCD and depression, anxiety, into like mania, bipolar, schizoaffective. So it became this.
That sounds rather extreme. So
huge,
what
deep,
for
dark
people
monster.
who don't know what that means?
Yeah.
What is that?
So I talk about mania. So mania, they describe it often as feeling invincible or thinking that. I mean, there's a lot of they call grandiose, right? Like grandiose.
Okay.
Kind of feelings. You might think you're a god or the god or a lot of strange things, and I had a lot of
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Maybe not the
no,
god, but a
no.
god. or you think you're Superman, Mr. Invincible.
Superman, yeah. I was driving recklessly. I was doing a lot of weird stuff.
Well, that sounds like something every kid goes through anyway.
No, it was different. Like I thought I couldn't die. I thought I'm good to go. I was going the wrong side of the road. It was intense. There were so many bizarre experiences, but then I started, then I entered into the world of like going to the hospital for mental illness, and it was a bizarre experience. I had a ton of those where I was in the hospital and I was just like, what is going on? But when you first get there, you have no idea why you're there. You don't know where you are. They don't sit down and tell you what's going on. I don't mean to complain about the system of that, but for me, I feel like I was mistreated a lot of the way, and I kind of want to be an advocate for that. So back to bring this kind of full circle, I want to use my magic to make people aware of these things and to maybe like convey a better system, because I feel like there's a lot of mistreatment in the hospitals, and if I can make people aware of that, or
So your new shows that you're designing, are you going to design it with that in mind?
I mean, I've been trying to think about it. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do anyway, I always build the audience up. If a participant comes up to the stage, you build them up. A lot of magicians say, they make jokes at their expense or their own expense. And I was taught by Eugene Berger, who was in cahoots with Jeff McBride, teaching with Jeff McBride, is that you don't make jokes at the audience's expense because they're going to turn on you. And also, you don't want that kind of a show. I mean, if you get there's stuff on the market for magic that's like a kid comes up to the table and the table collapses and everything falls over, and the kid's left crying on stage, and that's what you want your show to be.
That sounds like a horrible trick.
It's a horrible trick, and they sold it at an auction that I was at, and I was like, this is terrible. So you want to build the audience up, and it's for that reason, because you don't know what's going on inside mentally. They're diagnosing kids younger and younger. I have another friend, Teresa, who's a therapist out in Philly, and she talks about, they're giving, I don't really sway one way or other with this, but they're giving younger children, 13 years old, heavy-duty psychotic meds. And this affects older people deeply. And now, so you got to be cautious of what you say to people. Just treat people gently and have fun. And I mean, I'm a big believer that we're everybody, So when you're talking to someone, you're talking to yourself. So I think it's important to be cautious of that. But back to the story. So I'm in the hospital, and I'm trying to think of the first time. I kept going to Brook Glen Behavioral, which is in Fort Washington near Philly, and I mean, the entire time, I'm just out of my mind. I'm in the ambulance, and I'm thinking I'm making the cars pass by. And I'm like, it's funny now, but I'm doing I'm like, all right, come on, go ahead. And I'm like directing traffic in the back of the ambulance. And this is all real to me. And that's the one thing that's scary about mental illness, is that it's real to you, and no one can say otherwise.
Well, it's kind of like imagination to the most extreme degree.
It is, yeah, because you believe it.
Right.
You think you're actually doing what you think it is that you're doing. I know I was...
Which has got to be even more complicated when you can make things appear out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Did you ever do a magic trick and think, oh my god, I actually did that?
No, but you know what's cool? When I practice sometimes, and I think some other people, a lot of magicians have found this, you could fool yourself. You fool yourself practicing, and you're like, if that looks amazing. Or you're thinking...
Or you're not quite sure how it happened, but it happened?
Yeah. I know recently my brother, Christopher, has a martial arts dojo out in New Jersey, and it's Bujinkan Ninjutsu, and he just got back from Japan. But he had a seminar, and I was using a technique to get a participant to choose a specific card. Okay, so you know what that is, but I don't want to say what that is.
It's the general, pick a card.
Right, but I was getting them to choose the card I wanted them to choose.
Right.
So I'm doing that. Then all of a sudden, I didn't do that. I didn't do the technique, and I said, just choose one. So I said, I kept having him choose the 7 of diamonds, and I'm like, okay, don't choose the 7 of diamonds this time. He chose it again, and he's like, oh man, come on. And I'm like, don't choose the 7 of diamonds, and he does it again, and that's a running gag. And this time I didn't set up the trick part of it, and I said, don't choose the 2 of hearts with no sleight of hand, and he chose the 2 of hearts. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bizarre. And there's 52 cards in the deck.
Yeah.
So
and one
the
of
2
them
jokers,
is the 2 of hearts.
and only one of them is the 2 of hearts. And once he chose that, I said, okay, am I Jesus? Yeah, so you fool yourself, or there's different techniques that you do with cards, and it looks great, and you fool yourself. Or if you videotape yourself, which is also a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You should video your work, and then go your practice sessions, and then go back and then look at them. One thing I don't do is I don't time if I build a show, I never run through the whole thing and time it. I actually never run through the whole thing. I'm a very lazy, when I practice, I get lazy, and I'm trying to get better at this, but they're saying, Dr. Lawrence Haas was talking about this, who's another magician who was actually out at the Magic and Mystery School in Las Vegas, and he said you should time and he's not the first person to say this, but he said you should time your performances and make sure you know how long it's going to be. I've been hired before for 45-minute shows and have only gone a half an hour.
That could be an issue.
Now, when you're getting some money for that, it's a little bit,
Yeah, they pay you for 45 minutes. They get 30 minutes. Now they don't want to pay you.
Right. I never ran into that because I have like backups. One thing I do to kind of milk it, but it's not milking it, it's part of the show, is one of the last shows I did was for a First Communion out in Jersey. And for 15 minutes, I taught magic to the children.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, and I was like, no one else is doing this.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, now everyone's going to do it. Now everyone knows.
Yeah, well, that's all right. That'd be good. No, but if you're doing a show, because what are they thinking? And by the way, magic isn't only for kids. People say this all the time. Oh, my grandson would love this, and it's like, oh, isn't that cute? It's like, no, this could be a very serious kind of art. But anyway, if you're doing a show, everyone wants to know how you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
And that's not what it's about, because if it's artful enough and creative enough, they'll enjoy the experience. But that's like, how do you do that? So if you teach something very simple, or something that's cool but simple, interesting but simple, then you go a long way. And now you're like the teaching magician guy, I've always wanted to give lessons and stuff, but I feel like my knowledge of the actual technical skills isn't that vast.
Well, there's a huge difference between being able to do something and being able to teach something.
But
there are people who go to school just to learn how to teach.
But I have taught magic before. I taught it at camps.
Okay.
Like my girlfriend at the time was doing it at camp, and at summer I would go and I'd teach the kids magic, and I love teaching. I've taught guitar. I don't know anything about guitar. I've taught guitar before.
You don't know anything about guitar.
I know a little bit. I know a little bit, but
okay.
I would teach chords, and I just love to teach, and teaching magic is a huge thing of mine. And you know this because you teach, right? You teach a little bit.
To a degree.
You learn that much more when you're teaching. You're like,
that's true.
Oh, and it's not for you, it's for them. But at the same time, when you're teaching something, you're giving a gift, and at the same time, you're receiving. It's like this circle kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
It's a cycle that if you're teaching, you're learning. And I just want to, so I do give lessons.
All right, little cue in there if you need lessons.
Can I show you? Can we do the calculator thing?
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit of magic for a second.
Let's see.
I haven't done this in a very long time. Can I take a sip of this over here? Is that all right? No?
Yeah, you should be able to.
I should be able to.
This is not a sponsor. Yeah.
Should I cover up the...
We've got a calculator.
All right, so, okay.
I've got a cell phone.
So, I don't want to see the numbers you're punching in.
You don't want to see can we see the numbers?
But,
Is it possible? Does it... Okay, yeah. So if I hold it out here, they can see it. So.
Okay. So what is... I'd like the answer to be a 3-digit answer, so you can think about that however you want to do it.
A 3-digit answer.
1 second, I'll get into it in a second. I haven't really performed this, but a lot of people want to know if it's possible to predict the future. There's things like predicting the weather in the wrong half the time, and so I tried doing this, and this is what happened. I'd like you to choose a 3-digit number. You don't have to punch that into the calculator yet, but a 3-digit number. But it doesn't have to be consecutive. It could be not a repeating number. So it could be like 5, 6, 7, or 5, 9, 1, or anything like that. Then what your task is to reverse the number. So it's 5, 9, 1. Now it's 1, 9, 5. Okay. And you're going to subtract the lower number from the higher number. So if your number was 591, you're going to reverse it 195. And you're going to take 195 and subtract it from 591. So did you choose a 3-digit number?
Okay, so if I do, say...
Don't tell me what the number is.
That one. Okay.
And then
subtract the reverse.
But subtract whatever the lower number is. You subtract the lower number from the higher number.
Right. And then I get that.
So you have an answer. Is it a 3-digit answer?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm sort of seeing like a 3. Is 3 the first digit?
Nope.
Okay, that's okay. It's a 3-digit answer. Maybe it was in one of the numbers. What is just the very first digit of the answer now?
Well, it's a 7.
7. 792?
Yeah.
Was that?
How do you get that?
So I'm getting into mentalism.
That's insane.
Yeah, I'm getting into mentalism and
only the mental get into mentalism.
And only the mental get into mentalism.
Wow, that's something.
Cover up the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like mentalism effects. Now I have that, and that's great. But now it's how do I create the story? How do I make it a really great effect? How do I? Because that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's not. In my eyes, it's not artful. You know, like
right.
It's just like choose a number.
So you need some sort of story to
a story, or yeah. But I love that effect. Yeah, I love that effect.
I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It really caught me off guard. I was like, he's not going to get it. He's guessing. He's just guessing. I got to give him a number. And then all of a sudden you just get it. And it's like,
yeah, it's a great effect. I've blown minds with that effect. Yeah. Because it doesn't make any sense.
No, it didn't make any sense at all. Like, it's just a number.
Yeah.
And then, does it always come 792?
It's not always 792, no.
No, sometimes it's 3.
It could be 3 something. It could be, yeah. There's many different answers. So stuff like that I'm trying to get into. It's a lot of fun. I like the mentalism, aside from other things that are more like animated or because here's the thing with mentalism, and someone said this to me. I had a teacher, Bert Ebel. That was the guy I was telling you about with the water.
Right.
And he said, when you do a magic trick with a deck of cards, they go, oh, okay, that's awesome, but it's a trick. When you do something with mentalism, they go, did he really read my mind? So, I'm not trying to convey that I can read minds, because I can't. Applesauce.
Yeah. What?
I mean, I'm hungry.
Now I'm hungry. I could really go for some. That's not fair.
Now I planted a thought in your head.
Yeah. That's the other kind of mentalism.
Yeah. But, yeah, so we kind of got off track here. I wanted to show you that effect. I have another effect to show you, but we'll get to that in a second, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The mental health thing. So I kind of developed this program, and maybe you could help me one of these days. We could talk about this.
Sure.
I would love to go into some type of partnership with somebody. I developed a really cool program.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of red tape, though, because I'm not a clinician. I do have something called peer specialist. You ever hear of that?
No, what's that?
A peer specialist is someone who has a diagnosis that gets certified to help other people, and they get hired by different companies, and there's tons of different ways. So I did that for about a year or two. But I developed this program. It's called Magic. So far, it's called Magic for Mental Clarity. And what my dream is to go into these clinics that have groups and teach like a 5-day or a 3-day magic. And there's so many reasons why I say, in my own finding, because I haven't done research, but I've only done it personally, and I have no schooling, no PhD or anything, why magic is a super helpful tool when dealing with mental illness.
Interesting. So
the red tape is, I'm not a clinician. Who is this guy? Why is he telling us why this is good?
Well, but it's because you've been through it, right?
Right. But I'm just
So
one
you're
person.
going through with personal experience and bringing it to whoever may need it.
Right. And there's a lot of things that I came up with, nothing that's been proven in research, but
Mm-hmm.
dexterity, I think, because your body is connected with your mind, obviously.
Right.
So if you're busy, hang on, let's see here.
Manipulating a
If
deck
you're
of
manipulating
cards.
a deck of cards, and you can do simple things, right? So if you're practicing something such as this, so you just sit there, practice, boom.
Yeah, so the cards
Boom.
just fan out.
Or this kind of thing. If you're
Cutting with
learning
one
these
hand.
skills,
Rifling from one hand to the other without touching
yeah.
all the cards in between.
It's very hard to think, this is the simple form of this, oh, I'm depressed, or I have anxiety. I think magic has helped me tremendously with anxiety.
Okay.
So
when you're focusing on what you're doing physically on your hands, you get out of your own head.
Right, exactly. So the goal, I think, is to get out of your head, because a lot of these illnesses come from either self-negative talk, and I'm not saying just think positive and you'll be cured, but it comes from a lot of either loathing,
or at least doubt.
or doubt. Exactly, that's a better way to put it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, self-doubt, and it's, am I good enough, or But if you're busy with, so I came up with a few effects to teach, simple things to teach that are impressive.
Okay.
That could really help, with anxiety. And it's been a long time since I looked at my program, but I don't know. Are you in? Should we try to make this thing work or what? You don't have to give me an answer now, but
well, I mean,
how cool would that be to go into and public speaking,
mm-hmm.
teaching how to write a script for a magic trick, giving assignments. Okay, now you go home and you have this effect, write a script for this effect, teach a very simple effect. They go home, they write a script about it, they come back in, now they have to perform it. If they don't want to perform it, they don't have to, because that's
another level of stuff.
Right. But if now it's public speaking, now it's and what does that help with, right? Antisocial, anxiety.
Social, yeah.
So I kind of developed a really cool program, I think, that would help.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, and I reached out to someone who does therapeutic magic already, and they shot me down. He's a famous dude who does it. I won't say who he is, but
mm-hmm.
he shot me down and said, well, I have a PhD in this, and I've traveled the world. And I'm like, okay, dude, I get that I'm nobody, but I think that what I'm saying is valid, and I think I don't have to be listened to, but I think it could be worthwhile.
Well, I guess the real question is, he's got a PhD, he's coming from that educated background.
I'm coming from the school of hard knocks.
Yeah. It's a different thing. I mean, does he have that experience with mental health that he came from and through that system?
Yeah, I don't think he personally had the experience. But his was also, the mental health thing for him was a side kind of thing. His thing was more people that are hospitals for physical ailments or...
Okay, so it's a totally different thing.
It's a totally different thing.
All right, so that means that you now have to go back to school and get your PhD for psychology.
Sure. I'd rather not go through that, but because I'm just gonna go and find the information that I already have,
That's true, but
and be thousands of dollars in debt.
All right, I'll give you that. Maybe you can get a sponsorship. Maybe someone will see you and they'll go, you know what, this guy's got something. We're going to sponsor him, and his education will be paid for.
That's actually a pretty good idea. So in 15 years, be on lookout for this magic program.
Yeah.
I'll be 45 years old.
All right. Well, you got a little time then.
No, but I think it's a great program, and I've stated my cases and I've defended them, and I just think it's important. I mean, I don't mean to I'm not bashing. I won't bash. I promise. But.
Right.
A lot of these programs they have, and I've been through them, so I see what it is. Fill out this worksheet, or I love the how does it make you feel kind of thing, you know, like that. Or I'm not
Very
saying they all do
70s,
that,
isn't
but yeah, I'm not saying they all do that, but that here's a worksheet or here's, you know, you have this is a cool activity, but you have the ball and it's like throw the ball, what your thumb lands on. You ask the question.
Okay.
Let's do something of substance.
Well, that gets the physical in there a little bit. At least you're throwing a ball.
It yeah, it does.
So they can get out of their head and throw a ball. I don't know if that gets me out of my head. I think I could throw a ball without losing my train of thought.
Yeah. But I think let's so you get the point I'm arguing, right? Like let's do something of substance. Let's really change
do
the
something
way people
involved.
And now you have all these people who are maybe into magic, some might really follow that and go deeper into it, or the program could be over and that's it.
But at the very least, it gives them an option.
It gives them the option, and I think just handing a worksheet out to somebody, I mean, is that therapy? And I can't do therapy. I was not licensed, but actually, you can do therapy without having a license. The license only lets you bill insurances. There's life coaches without degrees. Did you ever realize that?
Life coaches don't need a degree?
No.
All right, I could be a life coach. I know what I'm doing.
You can be my
I know
life
how to live.
coach. You can be my life coach.
I'll be your life coach. You'll be my first client. It'll be great.
If you think this is a good idea and you're on board with it, we could talk later more about bringing this to fruition.
Well,
because you know more of the academic side. You know more of the academic side.
I have some ideas for you. We'll get into it in time.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Because the other thing too is I don't want to be the guy who's just chasing down gigs or shows. That's
You want the gigs to chase you.
Well, yeah, that's a hard life
to
go after when you're trying to chase down when's the next gig coming in. I have friends that are magicians that say, oh yeah, I only had one show this month, and the economy's bad, and that's a huge one. But I think if you're a likable person, or people love you, or they want to be around you, and you have a great delivery, I don't think the economy matters. I really don't. I mean, why do these other companies that aren't magic companies or whatever survive through the times of desperation when some thrive on it and some just disappear?
Well, you gotta angle your business aspect towards whatever's going on.
Right.
And that brings us right back to you got to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
All the politics is going to affect all of that. Everything going on, like Jersey can no longer hire independent contractors or whatever if that passes through. But that's going to change the way you approach the business aspect of whatever it is that you're doing. If you're doing this, non-clinician thing, or if you're doing magic in general, or if you're doing, say, exercise programs or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Which I think brings us to
thing. You were trying to bring me into that. You were trying to steer me right into that direction. Yeah. So
I'm okay at that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was a nice transition.
Thank you.
Good job.
Well, now it's ruined.
Yeah. It's like telling the punchline of a joke and having to explain the punchline of the joke.
Well, I do that all the time. No one understands my jokes. It's okay. I got to get out of my head in order to tell my jokes.
Yeah, you should learn some magic.
I should. Maybe you'll teach me. But that does bring us into something a little bit more physical.
Yeah, so here's something that's on the table that I actually have not started yet.
It's not on this table.
It's not on this table.
Okay.
It might be on that one.
Might be on that one.
Yeah, we got to go look. No, when I was about 16, before I got the whole mental health thing, I was a pretty physically fit guy. I wasn't muscular or anything, but I was a thin dude. I was thin. Okay. I was running every day, literally every day, wintertime, everything. I would run around the community. I used to live in.
I hate running.
Yeah, I used to love it. I would run. It was 2 miles. I'd run around the lake in the community.
Oh my God, why?
Because it was I needed it. I really needed it, and it was something that helped tremendously.
All right, we'll just put it out there. If you see me running, it's because I'm either running to something or away from something. All right? It's one of the two. I don't run just to run, but you were running just for the sake of running.
Just for the sake of running, yeah. I was jogging. I was going for a jog. Yeah, okay. I wasn't sprinting for 2 miles. That's pretty intense. I would have a heart attack. Yeah.
I'm too old for that.
Now I probably would. Yeah. So I think in high school, senior year, I started gaining a little bit of weight. Then when I got put on the medication, I started gaining a lot of weight. And I think over the past 10 years, I gained 125 pounds.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
So I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. So I'm trying to find now. I just want a healthier lifestyle.
Okay.
So I think I filmed something super low budget on my Facebook page, just saying, hey, just so you know, I'm going to start this exercise program, which is just going to the gym basically for about an hour or two every day. I haven't started it yet. That was day 0. I want to make my first video day 1 for tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell what the weight is. I'm going to so tell what my current weight is, talk about my habits a little bit, and then talk about how I could change that and how I could really just get a healthier lifestyle, you know.
So you're going to change your diet?
Change the diet. Someone told me to go vegan. What do you know about that? This is still very exploratory in the States.
I don't know a whole lot about veganism. I've never tried veganism or vegetarianism or fruitarianism or any of that. I mean, I've heard, rumors. And I mean, we've got a couple of friends who are vegetarian. But
vegans can't even eat eggs, right?
Right. No eggs, no cheese, no nothing.
Yeah. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, I don't think I would do that. I would be looking at, maybe just a healthier balance.
Right. I don't know if I'd go...
Naturally, we're omnivores.
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to be eating meat and vegetables and grains. Even sugars are necessary in the diet.
Yeah. It's how much.
It's a matter of the comparative measurements and things like that.
Right. So, I would indulge tremendously in sweets and...
I still do.
Not take care of myself. I just... For the past, 10 years, I haven't been taking I've been smoking a lot, cigarettes. I want to cut that. And I mentioned in the video that I'm going to use nicotine gum because I'm a heavy smoker. I think I need the crutch and then wean off of that. It's a lot of... what you could do to yourself is terrific, and it's also horrific. Because you could shape your body and your mind into something spectacular. I know I was reading in a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. He was saying, Suzuki, he was saying that when your mental state is at its peak almost, not at its peak, it's not going to decline, but if you're doing well mentally, usually your physical body is
reflective.
No, it's usually the opposite.
Really?
It's like maybe your physical. When your physical is really great, maybe your mental. That's what he said. It came from.
So it's counterbalance.
That's what he was saying. But I think a lot of people who do both, they shape their mind as well as their body, and it's a good balance. He was saying when your mind is terrific, your body is maybe not doing so well, and then the opposite is true. But I don't know.
Wonder how that works.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that. I mean, I don't think it was based in science or anything, but that was his observation.
Okay.
And I think what he's just saying is whatever you're focusing on, other things. So I play guitar, I'm doing the writing thing, and I do magic, but mainly I've been focusing on magic, so I haven't been playing guitar as much.
Okay.
So maybe if you're shaping your mind and you're really reading a lot, you're not really going for walks. Maybe that's what he meant.
That makes sense.
Right,
that
something
makes
like
sense
that.
a little bit, yeah.
But, so I have to get back. My goal is to lose 120. I want to weigh 170 if I could, 175. I think that'd be
I can't imagine
tremendous.
being that low.
Oh man, I would love to do it. To do it. But I keep stalling to start. I keep saying, okay, I'm going to do it. And then I stop.
Well, we have to get you started.
I have to get started.
We'll have you on periodically. Back here on Pocono Speaks.
Let's do
You'll
it.
come back to us and you'll go, okay, now I've lost this much.
Yeah.
And here's the comparative mental state.
Cool.
And then you've lost that much, and there's the comparative mental state. And then, we'll have you on at the end, and you're going to go, well, now I'm terrifically physically fit, and I'm crazy. Again. We'll see.
My mind is deteriorated. Yeah.
Or you'll find the opposite, and you'll come on. You'll go,
I think you
I'm
said
going to be physically fit, and I'm going to be mentally
sound.
prepared.
Yeah. I think what you said before, where it's in conjunction. I think that makes the most sense. If your body's feeling great, mentally you feel better.
Well, that's usually the experience I've personally had. Cause I've been going to the gym lately. I actually started that about 6 months ago.
Nice.
And I find that my mind is much more focused.
Yeah.
And I sleep better because I'm exhausted.
Yeah. You actually weren't sleeping for a while, right?
Oh, I was horrible. I stayed
Yeah.
up for 72, 89, 115 hours at a clip.
Yeah, which is super dangerous for you.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It could kill you, actually.
You know, if you stayed awake for 3 days, you can officially check yourself into the hospital for that mental health thing.
Oh, really? Yeah.
All you have to do is be awake for too long.
Well, a lot of times when I was not feeling well mentally and having the psychotic breaks, it was like about a 3-day period where I wouldn't sleep.
That might be it.
But I never knew if I wasn't sleeping and then it became mania, or if I just was manic and I wouldn't sleep.
And then wouldn't sleep.
Never figured that out. I've tried with therapists talking about it. How do we figure this out? What happened? And we never could figure it out. We didn't know if I wasn't sleeping and that caused the mania, or if I was just already manic and I wouldn't sleep. Which is important to figure out, because if all you have to do is take a melatonin,
and that's a solution,
and you're okay because you're getting some rest, it's important.
Or if it's the other way around and there's no sort of medication that's going to help you.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty good for today.
Cool.
I think maybe you'll come back on another
I
time.
would love to come back.
We'll explore some more stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful listening to you, and I hope more people listen as Pocono speaks.